Once a giant, always a giant.
Okay. Welcome back to All Day Giants. Today we are here with Kevin, formerly known as Uncut Giants. He was here for our previous video. He's back.
Good to be here.
Today I've already put out a video on the Kenny Golladay signing. I'm gonna let Kev give out his thoughts about that entire signing. Today we signed Dory Jackson, so we'll be covering that, and then we're just gonna go over the other signings, the more low-key signings that we've done so far this free agency. And also, now that we've got a cornerback too, we've got to talk about the 11 picks, so we'll do that toward the end. Let's get right into it. Kevin, just 4 years, 72 mil, 76 guaranteed. Just give me your thoughts on the Kenny Golladay signing.
I was begging for this. I know you were too. Everybody wanted it. The money is a little bit more than I expected, but for a receiver like that, you have to spend the money on the things you need. So I'm overall happy about it. The only other option I would have gone with Allen Robinson, and he wasn't there. So I like the signing. A little bit too much money, but yeah, 9 out of 10. I like the signing, and hopefully Daniel Jones can be a lot better than last year.
Now, personally, when I heard, like, after the fact, everybody came out with Golladay, he wanted to be a Giant from the beginning and things like that. But along the way, during that weekend, we had teams like Baltimore, Chicago, and Cincinnati on his neck, breathing down his neck, trying to get him to go to their team at all. Did that worry you in any bit? Or that didn't worry you?
No, I knew there was a special connection between the Giants and Golladay. I mean, I'd say I was a little bit worried about Baltimore just because of like they've done in years. Other than that, like the Bears, I just laughed at that. The Bengals, I laughed at that.
Yeah, the Bengals one, I think I laughed at the most because it was like, I mean, it was between the Bengals and the Bears because one of the Bears team is just a dumpster fire, and the Bengals, like, they gave him a 1 year prove it deal, and I don't think anybody wants to play on that type of deal. So I felt pretty comfortable, and it's amazing, honestly, like how many players are buying into Joe Judge's system, and how the players are, like, I mean, us fans, when I listen to Joe Judge talk, I listen to every word he says every time he breathes, and it's amazing how versus Pat Shurmur and Ben McAdoo, and now to Joe Judge, how excellent he is when it comes to relating with the players and getting them to work hard. So back at it. So let's skip beat and go to Dory Jackson. He was signed today, 3 years, 39 mil. Personally, I like the signing. I think cornerback two, upgrade from Isaac Yiadom to Dory Jackson is a ginormous leap. I think Patrick Graham having Leo back and now having a for sure cornerback too, so we won't have to go through that carousel again. I think this defense can be top 5 in the league if we put it all together, or even at an edge threat in the draft or something like that. What's your opinion on the Dory signing?
I can't agree there. The money, yet again, I would have liked it to be a little bit lower, but at the same time, he could have been asking for way more, and nobody would have known. So I'm fine with the actual signing because I feel like nowadays there's a lot of coverage sacks more than actual production. So it would definitely help Lorenzo Carter, Zimenez, whoever we draft to definitely get to the quarterback because we have one lockdown corner and one trustworthy corner. And then a slot guy who's learning and he's pretty decent. He's got speed. So a lot of speed with their DBs too, especially with McKinney and Peppers too.
Yeah, referencing back to NYPD 2.0, this secondary is very exciting, and I don't think I've been excited to watch a Giants team more than this one because it's like we have all the pieces. It's just if we can put it together. Like on paper we look really good, but there's a lot of question marks. Daniel Jones succeeding in year 3, Saquon Barkley staying healthy, Kenny Golladay staying healthy, Adoree Jackson, John Ross. It's a lot of injury issue. So if all these guys can fix that and end up staying healthy for a good amount of time of a good portion of the year to the point to where we make the playoffs, and then if they can stay healthy during that span, that's a question they have to answer. Dory Jackson definitely he was the guy I was looking most forward to after the Galladay. We threw a Giants Nation threw a party when we signed Galladay, and then now that we signed Dory Jackson, it's like I see the amount of people buying into what Joe Judge is starting to create, and now what Patrick Graham is also a part of, and people are actually starting to believe in Dave Gettleman and the plan he has. So it's honestly just amazing to see. We talked about it a little bit, but you can give me a more in detailed response about it. Who's your favorite low key free agent signing besides Kenny Galladay and Adoree Jackson?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Kyle Rudolph because he's 6'6". He doesn't drop a ball. He's a red zone threat. He can help Evan Ingram. I mean, we can run triple tight ends, and we could have three quality tight ends on the field, which I feel like is a real weapon. I mean, you put those three guys and Galladay on this field together, that's just a lot of vertical threat, I feel like. And plus, it just feels so good to be able to run three tight ends.
Yeah,
Maybe even four. I mean, Levante Lolo's not half bad. I don't think I've ever seen a team run four tight end set, but who knows with Jason Garrett.
I mean, if Jason Garrett can get creative in any way, I'm all for it. I also agree that Kyle Rudolph signing, I think, is a very important signing, not only for this team, but for Evan Ingram's success as well. I think it'll help him maintain his thoughts and to create a bit more consistency. I also believe that if Evan Ingram can make that leap on what is this, year 5 for him?
I think so.
Yeah, so if he can make that leap in year 5, I do believe that it will help Jones. And if he can show that, I don't even think we'll have to pay him that much.
Mm-hmm.
If he was able to show some consistency, that would help us a lot because we'd have a solid tight end on a lower end deal that we wouldn't have to pay so much for. Now, Peppers, I want to sign him back for sure.
Yeah.
Like, he's been one of the most buy-in guys that I've seen. He's been trying to recruit everybody. It's been amazing to watch how much he's bought into this team.
I mean, I definitely think you just talking about Pepper's extension and everything. I'm just thinking about, I feel like right now we have this small window that we could definitely hit. I mean, we have Logan Ryan on a 3-year deal, Bradbury 3-year deal, Martinez same deal as those two. We have a Dory Jackson on the same deal. Like they all have 3-4 years on their contract. So I feel like if we're gonna make a really not strange run at the Super Bowl, but if we're gonna make it soon, I think these next 2 or 3 years, if we have like a great offseason next year as well, I definitely think we could be one of those teams who are in contention. Like you know how the Falcons,
Mm-hmm.
Eagles, they had such a short run. I mean, I'd like to have a longer run, but just thinking about it with all these deals and everything, I could definitely see us making a lot more win now moves with an actual good roster than 4 years ago when we were making win now moves with a 2-win roster. So
Yeah, I do believe that set us back a few years back when we had a lose type of roster and we thought we had a win now type of roster, and that set us back a few years versus where we wanted to be. Let's take a side step real quick and let's talk about Daniel Jones in year 3. Tell me if you're a buy-in, like do you think he has the potential to be the guy? What makes you think that, or what's your whole view on this Daniel Jones year 3? Because that's really what the Giants' future relies on.
it's very, I wouldn't say confusing, but you don't know what you're gonna get with Daniel Jones. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing because he could go out there and throw 5 tutties, or he could go out there and throw 5 picks. So I feel like this year, the only thing I want to look for is not turn the ball over as much and just be consistent. If he throws 2 touchdowns a game or 2 touchdowns and 1 touchdown, and he has more touchdowns than interceptions a game, that's perfectly fine. I don't care if he throws 20 touchdowns and 7 picks because that's a consistent and a good overall ratio. So I do think he can do a lot better than he did last year and before, even in his rookie year, which I think was pretty good, other than fumbles. But overall, I think he's going to have a good season.
Yeah, I agree. I think you really never know what to expect with Daniel Jones because, like you said, in his rookie season, he didn't do it at all in his second season. But in his rookie season, he had games like the 5 touchdown, 0 interception game against the Redskins, and then he had the 4 touchdown game against Detroit, and then he had the 1 touchdown, 3 interception game against Green Bay, and I think New England. So it's like he's a really up and down guy. All you want to see really is more consistency when it comes to him, because if he can figure out how to be consistent, he can be a serious weapon when it comes to the success of this team. Now, let's go back to the free agency talk. I've done it many times. We've sat in Zoom calls for hours and just discussed Dave Gettleman and what we expect for the offseason. And I don't think not once did we ever mention the potential of what's happened. I'll put my thoughts after yours. Give me your thoughts about Dave Gettleman. Have they changed since the beginning? Just give me a whole rundown.
All I have to say is if he would have done this since he got here, putting winning people on a losing team to become a winning team like he is now, putting these like Dory Jackson was cut, but he's good, so let's get him on our roster. And there's just the culture isn't because of him, which sucks because I feel like some GMs are like they come in, they get their guy, they know what they're doing, they build a team, and they compete. But for us, it took 2 3 years to finally find the head coach, which I personally said helped the GM figure out what he was doing. Because in honesty, I did not think he knew what he was doing. But now, 2 good off seasons, 2 Joe Judge off seasons. So I mean, I'm happy that we're making the right moves. I'm just worried that it's not because he's figuring it out as a GM or even as an executive.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that completely. I actually never thought about it like that. I think a lot of, I mean, nobody really truly knows what goes on behind closed doors. So we can't say how much say Joe Judge has or how much say Gettleman has completely. So I do agree. Some things I believe have been influenced by Joe Judge being there. I mean, I don't think you can ask one person, have they been influenced by Joe Judge? And if they say no, they're just straight up lying, because any word he says, he's influencing you. By the way, he just talks. He's so confident. But I think Dave Gettleman, like everybody before the offseason wanted him fired. He ended up being brought back for another year, or not brought back, but he wasn't fired, so he was staying for another year. And I know people had mixed emotions about it, but after this offseason, I think Dave Gettleman bought himself another year, regardless of Daniel Jones. Like, I think a lot of people's opinions on it were Daniel Jones, if he doesn't work out, Dave Gettleman's gone as well. But I think Dave Gettleman's also has a well roster that if Daniel Jones doesn't work out, I think if we can snag a quarterback who's on the trade block, or if we can get a veteran guy, I don't think we're in that spot to where we can just start all over and draft a quarterback and hope he works out. We'd have to get a proven guy, and I think that proven guy would have to take this team to the Super Bowl. So that's just how I do Gettleman. I think he's bought himself some time because he had a hell of an off season, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Let's talk about. I more want to talk about the lower end guys. We talked Rudolph and John Ross. I think were the more upbeat lower end type of guys. Like they were the low type of guys, but their names are still known. Like Kyle Rudolph's 31. John Ross was a former first round pick. Let's talk about the guys like Reggie Ragland, Iafetti. I'm not even gonna try and pronounce his last name.
I think it's Iafetti.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna try either.
it's one of the most difficult names I've seen. And then Devonte Booker. I'll start out with this one. Reggie Ragland. I haven't done my due diligence on him, but I have heard in a guy like Patrick Graham's scheme, he can fit really well. So I'm excited for that. I think I think a lot of people will excel in a guy like Patrick Graham's scheme. What do you think about Reggie Ragland?
I think he's good. I just feel like he's like an upgraded David Mayo. Like he's not the fast linebacker, but he's a for sure tackler, which I mean is always good. But I feel like nowadays, like you gotta have that sideline to sideline pass coverage linebacker. I don't think we have that yet, but yet again, what we're doing could prove me wrong. I mean, the only thing it helps really is run stuffing, which is perfect. I mean, I don't know. It was just one of those signings. It was cheap, so it really doesn't hurt. It's better than having David Mayo and Devonte Downs out there. That man was horrible.
Horrible.
So it's at least it's good to see a good veteran possibly on the field, other than a veteran on our team who is horrible and he's just there because he's there. So I like the signing, but I don't think it's gonna make too much of a difference.
I agree. Speaking of David Mayo, he's now with the football team, so we'll see how that works out for him. Now, I don't want to go on Ifedi, however you pronounce it. I want to leave him last. I want to talk about this Devonte Booker signing because honestly, if anybody wanted to point out a mistake by Dave Gettleman, it was most likely this one. It was a day one free agent signing. I think it was like 2 years, 6 mil, something around that range. And it was like, I don't think you pay a guy like that much money just to back up Saquon. What do you think about it?
It just made no sense. Like if you just running backs, you wait it out. You never should sign a guy at day one, especially for 3 mil, who's I wouldn't say unproven, but he hasn't proved himself as like I mean Wayne Gallman could have made just as much as he did. And I'd say Wayne Gallman's proven. You know what you're getting with him. With Booker, he's a good pass blocker, he can catch, he's a decent runner. But I mean, you just should they should have waited for a running back if they were gonna sign one because you saw like Philip Lindsay, he hit the market. He was cheap. Like there's these guys that get cut off rosters and because of salary cap get cut, like a Dory Jackson, just a random dude who gets cut. He could be interested in your team and he could be good. Devonte Booker just seemed like a hey, let's do something. Let's get somebody on this team kind of signing. But at the same time, they did it for a reason, so I believe in it. I still think it was a little bit too much money. It seems weird to say since it was only $3 million, but just that $3 million could have been allocated to anywhere else. But it's whatever.
Yeah, I think when we say too much money referring to 3 mil, it's because of like I'm not gonna say position value. I mean, you can also say that, but also the fact that he's a backup and the guy's like I think he's like 29, 30. So it just didn't, in my opinion, make sense to pay that much for a guy like that. Now let's go to Iafetti. What do you think about him? I'm sorry, I can't pronounce his last name, but I
I
also
think,
go ahead.
I think he was a good signing because he's been consistent when he's been in. He's produced sacks. I mean, I think his first one was against a quarterback on the Giants named Daniel Jones. I'm pretty sure that was his first sack. Saw that somewhere. Not sure if it was true, but I saw another stat too. Putting him on our roster, he is the in our roster, he is the second most career sacks on our team. He has like 10 and a half. And the only person higher than that is Leonard Williams with probably like 13 or something in his career. And that's just crazy to me that we signed this dude for dirt cheap and he's probably I'd say the most productive edge on our team already. If he's the same as he was with Minnesota.
Yeah, I saw exactly what you saw and how it made him the second most career sacks on our team. Now, despite having that, I think having him on the edge, and I think Dexter Lawrence will play a key part in that front four if he's able to replace Dalvin Tomlinson and his production in the run game and things like that. because Dexter Lawrence, he was a 17th pick in the first round. So it's like his time to get paid is starting to, I'm not going to say it's coming around, but it's definitely peaking at us. And I know it's something you want to plan for in the future. So he's definitely alongside Daniel Jones. They came out of the same class. They've got to make that year 3 leap, and he's got to make some noise in the run game. I know him and Tomlinson had like top 5 in like double team rate. So obviously he's drawing attention and pulling in the guys that pulling in the stats that don't show on paper, like sacks and tackles for loss, but he's definitely making some noise where it's needed to be. With the addition of Dory Jackson, let's wrap it up and talk about the 11th pick, because it's the amount of scenarios you can go here is just endless. Now, with there's not being that many holes on this team, where would you go, and where do you think we're gonna go with the 11th pick?
With this roster now, I think you just go best player available if you can't trade back. I think trading back is number one. You could trade back with the Patriots to 15, the Bears to 20. You could strike gold with the Bears. They could offer 1, 2, and a 3 if a quarterback's up, like Justin Fields or Trey Lance, that they really like. So you can really benefit off of somebody else's need. And you could have 3 more picks in the top 100, which is beautiful. But yet again, I don't see us doing that. So what I think at 11, best player available, probably Jalen Waddle if he's there, or Rashawn Slater. What I think they'll do, Jalen Waddle or Rashawn Slater. I'm hoping they're thinking the same way as me, where you have offensive line need. Well, first, I hope they think to trade back, which, again, I don't think they're going to do, because I don't think Dave Gettleman has ever traded back, ever in his career. Same time, he's doing random stuff this offseason that he never did, so who knows, he might add on to that. But right now, I think the pick is Waddle or Slater. Has to be. I mean, Mike Parsons could slip in there, but one of those 3, and if it's some other dude, I'd be content with it, because I feel like draft picks are always surprises out of nowhere. But that's just how I feel about it and how I think they'll go about it too.
Yeah, like you said, in my opinion, where we're at now, I think we hold 6 picks in the draft, and I told you before we went live on this, and I said I will never predict what Dave Gettleman to do again, because obviously I'm wrong, and I don't know, I can't predict what he's gonna do. So, but I do agree with you, and I think, like you said, team needs do play a big part in this, and I think with San Francisco sitting behind us and the whole media boosting the idea of, oh, are they going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo? Are they going to trade up? Things like that. I think that bodes well for us, because say a quarterback like Justin Fields or even Trey Lance, or depending on how teams feel on Mac Jones, if they slip to 11 and the 49ers are sitting right behind us, and 49ers are like, okay, we can snag a quarterback right here because their roster is just as ready as anybody's. They can snag a quarterback. Chicago can say, okay, they've already shown that they'll give up a haul just to trade up if they think they've got their guy in a quarterback. So Dave Gettleman can be like, first, second, and third, you can have this pick. They can get their guy, and I think we could even snag a tackle at 20. We could go wide receiver. We could go edge. We could really go anywhere with the 20, and then also have the 52. And I think it's like, I'm not sure what their third rounder is, but I know their second rounders at 52. So trade back, in my opinion, with the Bears has been my number one option, even before I said this even before the Galladay and Dory Jackson signing, because the chances of Waddle, Pitts, and Slater being at the Giants pick are very slim. I mean, like you can tell, like you said, drafts are always surprising because you never really know what teams are going to do. But trading back just has to be – there's a first for everything. And like Dave Gettleman has shown that he's not known to go for big-name guys or the number one guys on most people's boards, but he's shown us that he would do that this year. And I was proud that he did that this year. So I think in other years, yes, Saquon Barkley, we could have, if we wanted to do that, we could have traded back and still got him, or we could have traded back. We definitely could have traded back from the 2 spot, but nonetheless, I still think Saquon Barkley was that great of a prospect that they didn't want to do that, although it was a smart thing to do. But Gettleman has shown maturity and to grow and adapt as a GM. So I do think if there's any time to trade back, it is now. Like, you have to do this. Like, it's just the number one option. But if I had to pick a guy at 11, it's like you said, Jalen Waddle or Rashawn Slater, because O-line is definitely an important piece in the development of Daniel Jones. And also, nonetheless, Jalen Waddle is undescribable. One thing I do want to point out is the fact that he will not be participating in Alabama's Pro Day. So I think that is a main factor in his health. And I'm glad we're out of the cornerback 2 sweepstakes, because Caleb Farley is now dealing with back injuries that have now just dropped his draft stock. So a lot of things are happening for the draft. So I'm excited. I really, really want us to trade back. Do I see it happening? No. Kev, give us your final thoughts before we wrap it up.
That's one positive of trading back. A guy like Farley, if his draft stock goes down, he's an excellent player, but he's having a surgery that's questionable. I think it's a back surgery. I don't know where in the back, but I mean, if you trade down and he falls down and you feel like you're high on him, you could have Farley, Adoree, and Bradbury, and that's a trio that would be very exciting to watch. But that's the thing about trading back, because there's always a dude that drops that should be a high pick, and then he ends up doing good, like DK. DK, I feel personally should have gone pretty high because he had the physicals, he had the speed, he had everything. But there's just random questions about these players that cause him to fall back. So that's just my final thoughts of trading back is a necessity.
Yeah, like you said, CeeDee Lamb last year, who went to Dallas. People expected him to be the first wide receiver, and then Henry Ruggs was. So you can never really tell. Thank you, Kevin. You guys can go check him out on Instagram. He has a major following. Uncut Giants. He also writes for Uncut Sports News, which we're both a part of. Like, comment, and subscribe. It's free. Help out and support. We're going to keep continuing throwing out Giants content. The off season has been amazing. I'll figure out the next few videos will most likely be surrounding Kenny Golladay and then the draft. So thank you, Kevin, for coming on. We'll definitely have you on again.
Thank you.